Guys, please be ready for dictation from the Hindu editorial section dated 1st December 2021. Ready? The heckler's veto seems to be winning repeatedly against stand-up comedian Munawar Farooqi. Bengaluru has joined the list of cities in which Mr. Farooqi cannot perform because right-wing Hindutva groups routinely threaten to disrupt his shows wherever they are scheduled to be held. The Bengaluru City Police asked the organizers to put off a show on November 28, alleging that allowing it to go on would create law and order problems and disrupt peace and harmony. Mr. Farooqi was unjustly arrested in Indore in January after a BJP functionary's son complained that he was about to denigrate Hindu gods in a planned show. He had to spend 37 days in prison before obtaining bail from the Supreme Court for remarks that had not been made in a show that did not take place. It is this case in which the police arrested even local organizers and those selling tickets for the show and had nothing to do with the content of his performance. That has been cited by the Bengaluru police, while voicing fears about the consequences of allowing the show to be held. Earlier, programs in which he was due to perform in Raipur, Mumbai, Surat, Ahmedabad, and Vadodara were called off for the same reason. It is a telling commentary on the state of free speech in the country that anyone can be silenced anywhere by the threats posed by violent and vociferous groups that no regime in the country seems to be able to rein in. In a despairing reaction, Mr. Farooqi has said, "Goodbye, I am done," indicating that he has no further hope that he would be allowed to exercise his constitutional right to express himself. This is reminiscent of Tamil writer Perumal Murugan declaring his own death in a literary sense after being silenced by conservative and religious groups. In Mr. Murugan's case, he was fortunate that the Madras High Court resurrected the author in him with a stirring verdict underscoring the duty of the state to protect free speech and to preserve law and order, instead of placating those who threaten to take the law into their own hands. It is a pity that the police authorities perfunctorily advise authors, speakers, and artists to remain silent, rather than take proactive steps to protect their fundamental rights. It is true that whenever such issues go before a court of law, the resulting judgments are speech protective, but the proclivity of the authorities to pander to chauvinist groups is posing a serious threat to free expression in society. The Supreme Court's observation in S. Rangarajan, etc. versus P. Jagjeevan Ram 1989 that suppressing free speech in response to a threat of demonstration or protest would be tantamount to negation of the rule of law and a surrender to blackmail and intimidation seems to have few takers among those in positions of power. In appointing its first ever woman prime minister, former finance minister and member of the Social Democratic Party, Magdalena Andersson, Sweden joined other Nordic nations that have had a woman as a leader. Miss Anderson's entry was unusually dramatic. She was thrust into the prime ministerial berth for scarcely a few hours last week, as she had to resign owing to a coalition partner, the Green Party, quitting government after its budget proposal was defeated in the Riksdag. Nevertheless, she went on to secure the top position on a firmer footing after another vote was held where she surpassed the threshold for maximum level of opposition to her prime ministership. She faced 173 nay votes, whereas it would have taken 175 of those to keep her from taking up the leadership mantle. She takes over from her predecessor Stefan Löfven in complex political circumstances, given that he was heading a caretaker government after being defeated in a vote of no confidence in June 2021. Hailing originally from the university town of Uppsala, Miss Anderson's political innings kicked off in 1996 when she became a political advisor to erstwhile Prime Minister Göran Persson. She embodies the classic Swedish ideal of hard work and rising steadily through the ranks on the merit of her performance, an exceptional achievement given the male-dominated arena of Swedish politics. Yet, Miss Anderson can hardly afford to rest on her laurels, as the road ahead for her government and party may well be a bumpy one. The immediate challenge is of economic governance, and it arises from the fact that the Social Democrats are charged with implementing a budget passed by the Swedish opposition, including the neo-Nazi elements of the right-wing Sweden Democrats Party. While there is cause for cheer given that the opposition budget was based on the government's own proposal, the stumbling block for her administration may be the fact that of the 24 billion kroner that it hoped to spend on reforms, only a little over 20 billion kroner will be available to her government in 2022. This tightening of purse strings could dent for her ambitious plans to carry out much needed social reforms, especially in the areas of climate change, welfare policies, and measures to combat gang violence and organized crime activity, both of which have risen alarmingly in recent years in cities such as Stockholm, Malmö, and Gothenburg. while some analysts consider Ms. Anderson to be not opposed to dealing with right-wing parties. They acknowledge that her position, softened during the pandemic, manifested in greater willingness to borrow to fund green investments and in allowing the state to have a greater control of the welfare sector. Her ability to build bridges with the opposition while yet staying true to the Social Democrats' core party values will define her legacy.